This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
It is 6 p.m. on July 11th, and I will now call to order this meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Are there any public concerns or non-agenda items?
I've not received any.
All right, we have a public hearing for a notice of intent filed by VFC Group on behalf of NSTAR Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy at 19B15 and 19B16 line right-of-way off North Street, map 110, lot 19, for a distribution line upgrade project. DEP file number.
It's no longer pending. The number is 1510320.
Excellent. Do we have someone here to speak for this item?
Yes, hi, I'm Melissa Kaplan. I'm with the BSC Group representing Eversource.
I can
Can't hear you. Just a moment.
You're unmuted, but let me see here. Count. Can you hear me, Melissa?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay.
Thank you. Please introduce the record.
Melissa Kaplan, with the BSC Group representing Eversource Energy. Cassie, am I going to be able to share my screen?
Yes, let me make sure. I'm going to add you as a co-host. Should give you the ability to do that. At the bottom of your screen, there's an arrow inside of a box. That's the right icon.
Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can see the map. Oh,
Just coming up. There we go.
okay. Okay, so if I look to the side, I have two screens. So, so Eversource is proposing to upgrade their. Everything okay?
Yeah, sorry. I muted you for a second by accident.
Eversource is proposing to upgrade their 19B15, 19B16 distribution line, which runs out of the Midway substation here in Easthampton and travels over the Connecticut River into Hadley and continues over like a farm field and to Hockenham Road over on that side. But on the Easthampton side, as part of the upgrades, they're replacing all of the structures. The structures are currently lattice structures. They're like transmission lattice structures, even though this is a distribution line. And they're going to be replacing them with a steel monopole. These two here, the one in the substation, which is outside of jurisdictional areas, and then the one by the river here is the one that's the subject of this NOI. And it's located in floodplain and riverfront area. And to replace the structure, we need to remove, I think it's 8 trees, which are indicated by these green, fluffy looking icons on the map. And then they're going to be putting in a matted work pad to create a level, safe work area for them to be able to have enough space to be able to move around these structures and to install and remove them. The matting in wetlands, which there is a little bit of a wetland here, is exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act, and and will be covered under the administrative consent order Eversource has with DEP, and they require all maintenance matting in wetlands to be restored, and we do monitoring and reporting with them for that. So the jurisdictional activities are the replacement of this pole, which that sounds like an exempt activity. It's just a replacement, but we're going from a lattice, four-legged lattice tower to a single monopole that's going to be put on an 8-foot concrete caisson. So it's a little bit of a change. It's moving back away from the red dot is where the new pole is going. It's moving back from the water. This whole area is disturbed. There's another old structure that's sitting in these trees right here. It's overgrown. It's got poison ivy and invasive species down there. You can ask some of these commissioners that came to the site walk. And I forget what else I was going to say, but the area along the river, there's a little bit of a drop down and like a shoreline that will not be touched. It's staying up on the slope a little bit and working in this area that is disturbed pretty much from the railroad to where the structure is. And then the 8 trees, there's a couple of maples, but they're all overgrown with vines and I think it's mainly Virginia creeper and probably some Oriental bittersweet that's running up all those trees. The trees are not healthy by any means. But essentially that's the project.
And when was the site visit conducted?
The site visit, they should be on the picture one there. I think, yeah.
6:30.
Yeah, the 30th.
And who all was in attendance?
So, yep, Hal and Sarah and myself.
Anything that you want to report from the site visit?
No, it seemed very straightforward.
Yeah, I think it's just a mess of invasive vines down there, so. If they actually create room for some rebuild something healthier.
Is it better?
What?
I didn't get a close enough look at the trees, but this exactly doesn't help. Bittersweet or poison ivy.
Only one of those. The others are just unpleasant.
Right.
I do want to say a couple more points, if that's okay. I do want to. That goes towards the permitting. So the lattice towers have concrete footers on them. Those are going to be removed. At least 2 of them will be, if not all 4, and that will compensate for the concrete caisson that's going to be installed since we are in the floodplain. So I did want to point that out. And the other thing is that there's plenty of shrubs and other vegetation around to where those 8 trees being removed, it's not a loss of vegetation. There will still be vegetative cover there. You're just going to lose a little bit of the canopy cover. So I just wanted to say those 2 things too.
So what will we see in terms of a total change in impervious?
It will be a negative. You'll get a benefit, a net benefit. It's actually, I forget what the number is in the report, but I think it might be like 91 square feet you're getting plus by the removal of the old pole, of the old structure.
Do you know where that's located in the report?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I think we have a project impact section. Oops, here, let me pull it up. Actually, it's under. Yeah, so under 4.1.2. The current structure has an overall footprint of 72 square feet, and the new steel monopole with its 8-foot diameter caisson will have a footprint of 50 square feet. So I'm sorry, my numbers were off a little bit. So you're getting a benefit of 12 square feet. Wait, 22 square feet. Sorry, can't do math.
You have calculations for the change in fill and floodplain?
Just those numbers, the square foot and cubic foot of the foundations of each are in there just as a calculation. It's not a foot by foot calculation, just an overall.
The cubic footage here, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, it says it in the same spot, I believe.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, it says as such, the structure currently has an overall footprint of 72 square feet and 72 cubic feet of fill.
Where are you, please?
4.1. And then the new steel monopole will have a footprint of 50 square feet and 50 cubic feet of fill in BLSF. The caisson foundation will have about a 1 foot reveal. And the footers are actually I'm not exactly sure how tall they are, but the whole, I forget how tall they are. They're 36 square feet in size total, and I multiplied that by 4. And then I just assumed they're actually not a 1 foot reveal, they're actually more, so it's a very conservative number.
So I see in one place it says, due to proximity to the river, only 2 of the 4 footers will be removed. But in the next paragraph, it seems to say that the lattice structure and 4 concrete footers will be removed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We are only moving 2 of the 4. That was a mistake, and it does say that under 4.1.2. It's all of the legs will be removed, but the actual concrete footers, because the back 2 footers are like right next to the drop down to the river. We didn't want to necessarily remove all of that footer because we didn't want any of the concrete going towards the river. So if they may be able to remove them without make a mess and going that way. And if they can, then that'll be an additional benefit. But I think we're only going to say they're going to remove 2 of the 4 so that they don't have any risk of impacting the shoreline of the river.
So if the overall existing fill is 72 cubic feet of concrete and the new fill going in is 50 cubic feet, but you're only removing half of the cubic footage associated with the existing.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the 72 included the 2. It was 36 square feet each of those footers. So that's 2. I said 4, but I apologize. Contradicted myself there.
So the line in 4.1.2 that says, as such, the structure currently has an overall footprint of 72 square feet and 72 cubic feet of fill is incorrect.
No, that is correct. 36 plus 36 is 72. Each concrete footer is 36 square feet in size.
There are 4 footers on the current structure. So then wouldn't it be 72 times 2?
But we're only removing 2. So
It's 36 times 2.
right. So the maximum total square footage of the entire structure would be 72 times 4, but we're only removing 2. So I only counted for 2 there.
2 times.
It's 36. Let me start over.
It should be 36 times 4.
Yeah, if we were accounting for all 4 footers, it would be 36 times 4, which would be 72 times 2. But because we're only moving 2 footers, it's 72.
So it goes from 144 to 122.
Yeah.
And what will be the extent of disturbance around the site?
essentially this matted area is where the mats will be placed down. And then they'll just, in terms of the actual ground disturbance, is just an 8-foot diameter that they're gonna drill and to put and then the pole will go, or the concrete will go in that, and then the pole will be attached to the concrete caisson foundation.
So where would we find the total area of disturbance?
50 cubic feet or 50 square feet.
You're not going to touch anything beyond 50 square feet during this project.
I mean, the matting's going to be down, which is BMP, but that's a temporary disturbance and it's not a. Yeah. The trees will be removed, but again, they'll be cut. They won't have a ground disturbance.
Kathy, did we receive any comments from TDP with the file number?
Yeah, I can pull this up. It should be in that file, but I can pull it up. Hold on. So there were only 3 comments. The first one, the project appears to qualify to be filed as a limited project under 310 CMR 10.53, Section 3, Section D. And then the second comment was pursuant to 310 CMR 10.59, the Conservation Commission shall not issue an order of conditions under 310 CMR 10.05, Part 6 regarding any such project for at least 30 days after the filing of notice of intent unless Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program before such time period has elapsed has either determined that the resource areas which would be altered by the project is not in fact within the habitat of a state listed species, or if it has determined that such resource area is in fact within the rare species habitat, rendered a written opinion as to whether the project will have an adverse effect on the habitat. And then part 3, or comment number 3, please note that 310 CMR 10.53 Section 3 states no such limited project may be permitted which will have any adverse effect on specified habitat sites of rare species as identified by procedures established under 310 CMR 10.59. We also got the letter from Natural Heritage, saying that it would not result in a take, which I have here. Let's see. So under the Wetlands Protection Act, Division has determined that this project as currently proposed will not adversely affect the actual resource area habitat of state protected wildlife, rare wildlife species. Therefore, it is our opinion that this project meets the state listed species performance standard for the issuance of an order of conditions. And then also under MISA, they have found the same. Division has determined this project as currently proposed appears to be exempt from MISA review pursuant to 321 CMR 10.14, which they go on to quote the language, which I can read if you like, but just figured. You do want me to read it?
No.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Other questions or comments from the commission?
I have one about the invasives. If it's exempt, can we ask for them to remove invasives?
So not everything is exempt. And they're doing work in riverfront. So I would think that we could look for an improvement over existing conditions. Are there currently plans to do any restoration or management of invasives at the site?
No, as limited project, we're not required to do that, but the project will be an improvement because we're moving the structure back further from the river. And the vegetation, the mats will go on top of the vegetation, but they won't be cut or removed. If they're there, the seed bank is there, they're going to grow back.
And no restoration is planned for the area that you're retreating from the river?
Yeah, I mean, Eversource works to restore to pre-construction conditions to the extent practical, of course. Elevations, conditions to the best that they can. Obviously, there is a slope down, and they need to make a level work area, but they can't compromise the area near the railroad. So they'll probably not adjust any grades or anything, just flat mat as best they can. So once the mat's removed, we do inspections, and if anything looks like it's not, revegetating, we'll propose to put down in the uplands like a wildflower seed mix, or in the wetlands a wetland seed mix. But I don't think it's going to be needed because the matting's probably just going to be placed right on the vegetation.
And what about the areas where the footers are removed?
Yeah, so that will be backfilled, and we can ask them to put some seed mix down too. I believe that's what we said they'll do, mulch and seed and mulch to restore it.
Is that what you were talking about? Is just for the Twitter's part, or were you talking about a broader? Area?
Well, I wasn't sure because it's from the projects. I
Right.
didn't know how much we can ask to have them removed. And then restored with minutes. So,
The removal of the structure shouldn't be too invasive. It shouldn't be too much ground disturbing. They're basically gonna cut the structure down, and then the footers are on the bottom, and then they'll have to kind of chip and hammer to remove the concrete footers, and they'll be probably removed about maybe a foot below the surface, and so then a little bit of fill will be brought in, and that'll be backfilled in seeds. There's not a lot of ground disturbance. It's not a lot.
any pictures?
Yeah, I can share them on the screen. If that's either,
That's
they might
kind
be
of
in the,
hard to
yeah,
tell.
hold on
Yeah.
a second.
You got it? I can stop sharing.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so this image is from across the street. That's the lattice structure to be, one of the lattice structures to be moved. It's the one that's within the jurisdictional area. Just get a little closer, you can see the railway is right in front of it, and then the river is beyond. It's not shown in the image. So now the railway is behind us, and that's the Connecticut River forward. Kind of had to go down a bit of a slope to get to this area. It's hard to see the footers just because it's so vegetated. Let's see. There's, Melissa had mentioned there's a structure, an old abandoned structure. It's kind of buried underneath all this vegetation over there. To the left of the lattice, if you're looking towards the river, these are the area of trees to be removed. So you can see, like she said, they're covered in vines. Just a little more detail of those trees. Again,
Are you able to zoom in on the trees at all?
we can. I can zoom in these
See what
pictures.
the invasive- what the lines are.
I feel like I definitely see bittersweet already. Hello. That's a good assumption, but
These are the trees that are.
correct. Hard to say. It's a lot of stuff. Some people may be better at ID than I, but I've got pictures. There's printed pictures that are going around. I don't know though. I feel like it's correct. I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least Virginia creeper and bittersweet, but
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say otherwise.
I don't know if someone has I'm sorry. I was going to say, I don't know if somebody has a copy of the actual NOI we submitted, but on photo page 1 in appendix, an attachment C, there's a like a more of a wintertime, like without the vegetation grown in, you could see the footers.
Okay, cool. Let me go to that.
If not, I can
Yeah.
share my screen too. Oh, you got it there.
There's a paper copy here kicking around too, but it's easier. I'll just pull it up.
Go almost all the way to the back, the bottom. Yeah.
Let's see here.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah. Right there.
Okay. Much better view of the footers. So you could tell they were all covered in vegetation during the site visit.
The scale isn't the best, but they're pretty tall.
And so it's these back two that will definitely be removed. And you're going to look into potentially, if it's feasible, doing the front two closer to the river, but for sure the back two. And then to the right are the trees that are to be removed. And then it's so basically in the center here is where the monopole will be. Seems like.
In front of it.
Okay.
Because I think
yeah,
they have to put the new one in first before they remove the old. So
I see.
yeah,
Okay.
that's just the shoreline. Yeah, just going that side.
Okay. Thank you. That's good. Can you guys want to go back to the site visit photos?
Well, how far is it from the shoreline?
Yeah, do you have any shots of where the drop off?
I think that I do. I think I have a shot from this corner one looking down. I think I'm pretty sure I have a shot of that. So hold on just a second.
Yeah, I was going to say the last photo there is, you can see it.
Okay. I'll go back to it.
Yeah, if not.
I remember taking it.
Yeah. It won't be as clear in mine. We'll go back to her so I can, and you can see. Okay, this is kind of the best shot that I got of it. And there's the water down there, and this is the edge. It doesn't really show how much of a drop off it was. Really did drop off there. But this was pretty much right on the edge of it. So, you know,
Steep.
yeah. And let's see. This kind of is a good illustration as well. You see the water's down here and the footer's over here.
Why are they replacing it?
It's really old. You know, so it's essentially for reliability to ensure that it doesn't fall down, or we could continue, you know, Eversource can continue to provide, you know, reliable electricity. Yeah, I think it's from, I want to say the early 1900s. These are old structures.
All right, just making that note here. Okay. So this is, actually that picture is probably pretty good because I didn't go climb down. This is standing up and then across the way, looking across, so. Okay, let's see. So this picture is good too. This is looking back towards the railway. It kind of slopes up and the railway is up above and then that's across the street again, the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the trees that are being removed are more those right here on the front corner here.
And you can definitely at least see the bittersweet coming off of the front one. Looking back at it, and again, trying to show that slope down from the railway area. Now we're back over the rail tracks again. Those trees again from the other side of the tracks. And that is the last picture. If anyone wants me to go back to anything, let me know. Okay. Adjust.
So can you explain to us how the ongoing maintenance requirements and agreements that Eversource has will apply to vegetation management in this area? I think we're still concerned about invasives and restoration of the area to improve conditions that were existing.
I mean, essentially they're just gonna, I guess, Can you reframe your question? I'm sorry. So,
I know that Eversource has ongoing vegetation management agreements and requirements. And I'm wondering if that applies here and if so, how?
yeah, so those trees have to be removed not only to make room to perform this work because it's a lot, these structures are big and we're going to need some big equipment to get in here. So those trees need to be removed, one for that. Two, once that structure is in there, they do need to make sure none of those trees, especially in the condition they're in, are going to fall on the structure or the line. So that is part of their vegetation management to remove the hazard trees that may fall on the line.
And can you explain the ongoing application of that management plan?
Say that again, sorry.
Will the management plan apply in an ongoing fashion? I'm less concerned with the trees that need to be removed and more with what's going to happen with this space.
So the space shouldn't change. There's no trees in the right of way. So the area is always maintained as herbaceous or shrubs. So you're not going to lose your vegetative cover. Nothing greater than 10 feet, I think, is allowed to grow. And if so, that gets removed. I'm not sure what the what the yearly rotation this area is on. They may have a 3 or a 5 year plan. I think that's determined through their vegetation management plan that I think the Concom gets to review whenever it comes up every time.
And is management of invasives part of that plan? We've seen it, but it's been, as you suggested, a few years.
I don't know the answer to that. I could find out for you, but I'm assuming that if there are any invasives that could be at risk of affecting the infrastructure, they would have to be handled through, this herbaceous herbicide, which I know that they include in their veg management plans. But as part of this project, we're not going to be doing any of that.
Right, so I think we would like to know more about the ongoing management because again, our concern is with improving existing conditions for the area that you're retreating from the river and the fact that there are currently invasives there. And ideally, when we permit projects, we like to see invasives managed so that we're helping to address that problem in the long term.
I understand that you want that information and I could provide it to you in a condition, but that is not related to this project though. What they do during their vegetation management on their cycles is not related to this project. This project needs to come in to replace this infrastructure. It will put the matting down to protect the ground, keep conditions as is, improve the area by moving this giant structure back from the river. So there's your improvement, and will keep the conditions as is. We are meeting the regular riverfront area performance standards, and we don't technically have to as a limited project.
Do you have a citation for that?
How we're meeting the performance standards?
No, that you don't have to meet the riverfront standards as a limited project.
Yeah, that is what the definition of, yes, let me pull up the limited project provisions. Hang on one second. Where is my thing? Here it is. Hang on one second. I think I have it in the NOI. If not, I'll go look it up. Okay. Yeah, I'll go to section 6.1. There. So it says, so under 310 CMR 10.533D, it allows the construction, reconstruction, operation, and maintenance of underground and overhead public utilities in accordance with several conditions, including best available measures shall be used to minimize impacts, and the surface vegetation and contours of the area will be substantially restored, meaning it'll be returned back to the way it was before. The installation of the structure is not expected to alter the functions and values of the resource area. And as the DEP stated, it meets the requirement of a limited project. The limited project states, I'm not sure it's saying it here. I think I need to pull up the actual regulation. This is not actually saying where hold on. So number 10. I did not have it open. Hang on one second. .533. Okay.
So to approve this, we need to issue an order of conditions. We could add that as one of the conditions to improve the invasives.
So
No, the Eversource doesn't usually, if preferable, we would prefer not to have to manage invasives. It's going to be, there's too much of a seed source in the area. It would be too difficult, and it's just not going to be possible. And that is a pretty big burden to ask of Eversource. Meeting the conditions of riverfront area, as you can see here, there's no requirement to have to treat invasives as part of the Wetlands Protection Act.
we do have discretion, though, typically to identify the improvement that we would like to see in riverfront. This commission always asks for management of invasives, and I'm not seeing anything, although you've suggested that it's there, that says that we can't make that kind of request of a limited project. This section that you've directed us to says the issuing authority shall consider the following factors in determining whether to exercise its discretion to approve the limited project listed in 310 CMR 1053.3. The issuing authority shall consider the following factors, and one of those factors is the extent to which mitigation measures, including replication or restoration, are provided to contribute to the protection of the interests identified in MGLC 13140. And it is our opinion as a commission that the interests of the act, when we're talking about the Connecticut River and its riverfront, would require that we should be looking at invasives and management.
I know, but that is not, it is not in your purview to ask for a utility to have to treat invasives when they're not doing anything to impact the invasives. We're returning it to existing conditions. And our improvement is you're getting less impervious in the area and you're moving the structure back from the line. To ask to manage invasives, which would be years of costs to the ratepayers, to have to do that when it's not going to work, it's not going to benefit anyone.
Unless you could show us where it's specifically stated in the reg, so we don't have that authority. I'd like to check with DEP before we agree with you on that.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions at this point?
Are they trucking all the trees and everything they cut down off site? They're not wood chipping anything?
Can you speak to that?
I don't think they typically wood chip. No, they usually remove and either they'll take them off site. Not wood chip, unless you prefer them to, but they usually don't have the equipment to bring that down to wood chip it right on site.
And you know for certain that they'll be removing the material, or do we need to confirm that?
No, they will not. They will not be. They will be removing the trees from. And if you want to put that as a condition, that's fine too.
Yeah, just making sure we're not taking invasive.
We're spreading all over.
Yeah, and part of Eversource's construction BMPs is to ensure that no invasives are brought onto or removed from the site. In terms of all equipment needs to be kept clean and cleaned off before it leaves the site.
If there's nothing further, do we have a motion to continue?
Make a motion to continue to July 25th at 6 p.m.
Do we have a second? Roll call vote. All those in favor? Sarah?
Aye.
Val?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. So this will be continued to July 25th at 6 p.m.
Okay, and are you going to reach out to DEP or would you like me to? Or I can try to get you the correct language too, because I apologize for not being able to provide that.
Yeah, if you have a reference you can send over, that would be great. And in the meantime, Cassie, if you could reach out to DEP and confirm what our jurisdiction is for requiring improvements and defining that improvement for riverfront area in a limited project.
I can definitely do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. We have no request for certificate of compliance. Under enforcement actions, Cassie, do we have anything here that we need to address?
The only thing that I have an update for would be 93 Northampton Street rear. I didn't get any notice from, I thought that Dan, let me stop presenting here. Dan Nishi, the representative for 93 Northampton Street, was going to be in attendance, but I haven't heard from him. So we don't have the restoration plan to review. The other thing is that for the request for proposals for peer review, I've only yet received one proposal back. The due date for that is the next meeting. But I did kind of put in the request that we had a preference for today, but we only received one, so I don't think we have enough to make a decision.
Okay.
We can review it if you all want to, but let's you. Okay, cool.
Okay. And would you maybe just follow up with the people that you sent that to and encourage responses
Okay.
and remind them of the date meeting?
Yeah, yep.
That'd be great. All right, open space updates?
Yes, hold on a second. Oh, actually, if we could take out of order
Yeah.
before we do that, item 8M, Mr. Reynolds is here in attendance for that item regarding a request for a change to the order.
Do we have a motion to take 8M out of order? Do
I'll make that motion.
we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote. Sarah? Hal?
Aye.
Deb? Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, item 8M, the Chickling property at 108 Oliver Street, Mass DEP file number 1510311 for new single-family home with one crossing.
I'm Terry Reynolds. Thanks for listening to me. So I'm here because the applicant, Bill Chickling, has run into some issues and is requesting a change to the plan. And so what he's requesting is to do away with the concrete open bottom culvert and replace that with plastic HDPE pipe. And so I sent in a little memo sort of describing what's going on and basically maybe I can share my screen and kind of show you the differences and what we're talking about and then get into more of it.
Terry, I made you a co-host, so if you want to share your screen, that would probably be the most helpful.
Great. Let's see. There we go. So previously, what's been permitted is a driveway access for small lot he'd like to build a home on in the back here. And in going into this, he's got a crossing over a ditch right here. So years ago, he dug this ditch to help with the drainage coming off of this field, which he uses for his livestock. That was, before Wetlands Act, but, now it became jurisdictional. So we ended up permitting this with an open bottom culvert. And what he's finding is that the culvert is resulting in a very costly effort to put it in. It's about 20,000 pounds, and he's got to bring a crane in. And so what they're asking for is to simply put in HDP pipe, a 12-inch pipe, to take care of the drainage, which would also result in significantly less impact in constructing the road. The culvert itself, the open bottom culvert, is a 4.5 by 8.5 by 10 foot wide culvert, as you can see outlined here. Replacing that with a pipe, this is basically the impact. So to put this in, basically they're excavating this whole area. It's basically, by the time you excavate for these footers, you've got a 12-foot wide hole, 10 feet wide by 4.5, 5 feet deep for these footings and such. So what they'd like to do is simply replace that with just the 1 foot pipe and the bedding that would go underneath that, which is represented here. You can also see down here, this is the footprint of the overall culvert here. This is the footprint of the pipe that they're proposing to put in. So I know that by doing that, it doesn't meet the stream crossing standards. However, the intent of the stream crossing standards is to provide for passage of aquatic life. This is not a stream that provides that kind of passage. This is not something where you might have brook trout or anything of that nature going up and down this. This dries up and stays dry for most of the year. It's basically a drainage ditch that drains off these fields here in the springtime. And so I also have some pictures that I can show of the actual crossing as it sits right now, just so you can see that. Maybe. Where'd they go? It's not going to let me do it. Let me close something. Maybe it'll do it then.
This 1 foot diameter pipe reduces that cross section by quite a bit. Can a 1 foot diameter pipe handle the flow that goes under there?
Absolutely. This, I wanted to show you these pictures, but I guess I can't share JPEGs on here for some reason. It won't let me do that, unfortunately. Yes, basically, it's runoff from the field out there. And I'm very confident a one foot diameter pipe is not going to have any issue carrying those flows. They're springtime flows. They're really minimal to no velocity per se going through there. So yeah, I don't see an issue with that at all. The other thing is in terms of if we were to talk about, semi-aquatic animals, turtles and other species of that nature, my understanding is it's really unlikely that they would use that ditch to cross. They would simply go over the road, typically. And additionally, just, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but they are working on new policy that further identifies the criteria where you need to apply these stream crossings. This is one of the gray areas where you may have an intermittent stream that could seasonally carry brook trout that might sit in pools and such upstream. But this is a situation where that is not happening. There is not ongoing aquatic habitat using it. It's strictly a drainage ditch that is vegetated and not providing flow and passage for aquatic species.
So why was it designed so large in the original design?
I designed it originally to meet the stream crossing standards. So, what he's finding is it's number one, very expensive. Number two, it is very impacting to put it in. In terms of an actual resource area impact from the area, putting the pipe in compared to this is actually probably less doing the pipe. You're filling the area, but the area we replicated accounts for all of that from the start.
I disagree with your interpretation of the impacts. I think that the impact from disconnecting the two wetlands, which you would certainly be doing, is significantly larger than the impact from excavating to install the culvert. And the stream crossing standards are intended to provide not just for fish, but for all kinds of herps and salamanders and turtles and also terrestrial species. And they would in fact use a structure of this size. So I'm not particularly swayed by that argument. Have you looked at other options other than concrete that would allow you to maintain closer to the size that you had originally proposed?
To maintain that size?
Correct.
It still requires the same abutments. You could switch to a steel, wood beam type structure. While, maybe it's lighter, it's going to take longer to build. And in the end, probably cost a similar amount.
Sorry, what was that?
In the end, it may be cheaper material wise, but in the end, time wise and labor, it's probably just as much.
So you were saying that it would disconnect two wetlands?
Mm-hmm.
What's the wetland on the other side?
Currently, this wetland, I believe, spans both sides of where the driveway is going, correct?
No, it doesn't. Well, yes, it does. I'm sorry. It basically the channel goes through along the very edge of the wetland. It's one continuous wetland.
Could you share the plan again, just to show
Sure.
that? Thank you.
So the wetland extends all the way up in here and comes around. This is the wetland, this whole area. And it extends up into here, and it's piped under a crossing here, and then continues up into this area here. And then there's another isolated one here.
Right, and so you'd essentially be eliminating the connection between I assume that's east and west sides of the road, of the driveway.
Yeah, you'd still have a hydraulic connection with the pipe, but it would not be open.
I
It wouldn't
certainly
be a
don't
dam.
change. I don't know what others are thinking.
Well, 1 foot pipe, how do we know that's sufficient?
Because, I've seen it firsthand. A 12-inch pipe carries a lot of water. That little ditch at most has a couple inches of water in it.
Yeah, but we're speculating, I think. I mean, we're in a drought right now, so
No, I understand it's completely dry right now. There's no water flowing in it. I mean, I can certainly do a calculation. I believe I did a drainage area calculation for this originally. And it's about a half an acre, I think.
Terry, did your firm do the original wetlands delineation, or was that someone else?
That was GZA.
Do you have a copy of that report? I'm not seeing it in our file.
Let me check the digital file too. I might have it digitally.
Yeah.
Apologies if it's not in there.
I have a report dated. Oh. That's not it.
Does this fall under the agricultural exemption? Like where the wetlands are used for the livestock?
I think I found it.
I found it as well, but yeah. Let me know if you want it on the screen.
Did we permit this under an agricultural exemption?
I don't believe so.
No.
Is there an active agricultural use on this particular property?
Yes, there is. It's a beef farm.
And this area is in active agriculture that we're discussing, or no?
It is.
I don't know, answer your question, if that impacts it or not.
Would a larger pipe help the connection?
Definitely.
So 12 inches is small. Even if they go plastic and go larger, at least that would help make a more physical connection for anything that has to pass by or through.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in considering this, I would be glad to do a calculation to make sure the pipe is adequate.
I think we're not considering whether it's adequate for the water flow, but for the wetland connection.
Okay.
At least I understood it. If we did, would you do a larger pipe that wouldn't involve such a huge?
The bigger the pipe, the higher it's going to have to go. I mean, the pipe could be embedded more. We could go to a 2-foot pipe and embed it into the channel more. If you thought that would be beneficial. If we, right now, the way I showed that pipe would be just putting the invert to match the invert of the channel. You could excavate it more, putting a 2-foot pipe and partially fill it, and to give it, the alternative, to that. It still wouldn't meet the openness ratio, but it would provide a better opening if that's what we're talking about.
So Terry, I think my sense is that what you're currently proposing would not be a minor change and not something that I think we would be comfortable approving as a minor change. If you want to look at some other options, I think what we would want to see is how any option you present compares in terms of meeting or not meeting each element of the stream crossing standards, and see that presented next to a comparison of what was permitted, so that we can really assess the change that you're proposing.
For clarity, for my sake, because basically the commission has, whenever you guys review a change, you have three options: administrative approval, which is something that you would give tonight potentially, which seems to not be the direction commission wants to go. The other option is for an amendment to say it's okay to go for an amended order, which would involve essentially reopening the permit hearing. They would have to put a butter notifications out again in a legal advertisement, and it would kind of reopen the existing hearing that was previously closed. And then the last option is for the commission to say, you know, you'd have to go for a new notice of intent. And so I guess what I'm wondering is, do you feel comfortable determining that an amended order is an appropriate action for the next meeting or whenever they're able to come to do that? Or do you want to see more information to still make that determination?
I think your comparison with what was designed before and what's going forward is an important
Yeah, I
piece
think
of data to have.
I think we want to see more information. It's a little bit of a tricky one because we can't make a change that would be increasing impact. And we're not talking about increasing the area of impact, but we are talking about a different kind of impact to the wetlands. So I'm not really sure where that falls here.
It is interesting because, yeah, the DEP policy is that if they're going to increase impacts to jurisdictional areas, then the commission should require a new notice of intent being filed. But in this instance, it's not being, the area of impact in theory could be decreased, but the stream crossing standards would no longer be met.
Right.
And I don't know how the stream crossing standards, are those standards in the act? Or is it just how does that come into play?
They're not embedded into the act.
Right, so
But they address the interests of the act.
right. So it may be possible for the commission to do,
The interests.
right. So it seems like potentially it could be possible for the commission to pursue an amended order and still be in compliance with that policy when issuing the amended.
If we have better data to look at.
Indeed.
And the amended order doesn't involve the whole abutters advertising.
It does.
Oh, it does.
It does. They both do, but going for a new notice of intent is even more involved in that they would have to get a certificate of compliance with the previously issued one and redo a new a new filing fee. It would be more involved. So it is already involved to amend it, but it's simpler than a new NOI.
All right, well,
More information for next meeting?
given that I am not a wetland specialist, so I'll have to consult my wetland specialist in terms of how to best frame that and approach that. And I'll need to speak with the client and see where he wants to go, if he wants to take the time to further pursue this as opposed to just moving forward. So let me reach out a little bit, and I'll probably get back to Cassie probably next week and let her know where they're inclined to go.
Sounds good.
All right.
Do you have any questions about the stack piles?
Oh,
The stack piles of dirt?
Oh, there was a question about something that we saw on site, right?
yeah, I don't know, Terry, if you can speak to this. You did mention to me that they've increased the erosion conhad since you last site visited. There was a concern about the stockpiling that's going on the site. I had not reached out to the property owner previously before they installed the stockpile. So that was, honestly, I think it's on me a little bit more but to a degree, I think, but I don't know if maybe you can speak to the stockpiling that's happening there.
From what I saw, they were stockpiling out by the front road. I'm pretty sure that's where we had proposed the stockpiling. Yeah. In that stockpile area to, the north side of the entrance. I didn't look at it super carefully, but that's where topsoil and everything is piled right now.
If you go further in, down the road, there's a gigantic stockpiles for it. It's within the trees.
I'm not aware of that. I honestly didn't.
There's one
not know that.
as you're going from the main road onto where they are digging for their driveway. On the right, there's a stockpile. And then if you keep going straight into the wooded area, there's another large stockpile.
Okay, I do have a picture, so I'm just going to look at it real quick. Oh, I see. Yeah, they've got looks like they've got a stump pile sort of in where the driveway is proposed. Is that what you're talking about?
I believe so. I just saw it from the roadway.
It's in the inner portion of the site, in the tree area is what you're talking about? Does that sound correct?
If you're standing at the beginning of the road, straight ahead.
Yeah, but in through the trees and where the house area would be. That sound right?
Yeah, that I think based off what we discussed, that sounds like the correct stockpile that
Yeah.
she's.
So what that is those are stumps and such.
So is the concern that the stockpile might be like a violation of some kind, or there's not an area outside of the 100-foot buffer zone to do stockpiling of anything? Or do we want more like securing of the stockpile maybe, or there's some vegetation growing on it right now. I have some pictures that you can look at if you want.
I think that, have you been out since or no?
No, haven't even really got there
Yeah,
yet.
I think the question that was brought up last time was just transport of material, dental sedimentation, whether there were appropriate erosion controls around any stockpile. So maybe it's just a reminder to the applicant, proponent, owner, and potentially a site visit to check on things.
Yeah, I'll set up a site visit for sure and talk to him again about it. But
Yep. Yeah, but that pile, what it is that's the stumps and stuff from the trees they took down for clearing the driveway going in there. I can see that in my picture.
Okay.
So they may need to add some erosion controls around those. They are pretty far from stuff, but there are wetlands to the north, so they may need to just protect that a little bit if they're going to pile it like that.
Exactly.
okay, I can definitely. I'll reach out to Bill.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, at this point, they have run the sewer and the water out to the road. So.
I think we'll expect more information from you by the next meeting. Is that correct?
Yep, I'll be in touch with Cassie next week sometime, and we'll go from there.
Great. Sounds good.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
you. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay,
All right, back to open space updates.
yeah, Echo Dale. So we'll grab this file quick.
And I could have given us a new proposal. I did get it, and we had a letter. Essentially, the letter is saying that, they weren't able to do the consent, because there was a question of doing the consent treatment, can we fit it in before, it's too late in season to be doing that. And they said it's too much time has passed and it's too late. So the question was if Jay or it was willing to do any mowing.
Yeah, I just didn't want to mess them up if they were doing things.
No, I appreciate that, but I think basically, yeah, they're ready, whenever you are, to do a mow.
We could mow it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I guess maybe you and I can set up a date
Sure.
to figure it out. And then I think they wanted another one in the fall / winter. And then they would do the cut stem in the fall, I believe. But so I just was able to, I was off last week, so I was just able to review that today. And so, I haven't given them a sign off on it, but I figured y'all could look at it beforehand.
Sounds good.
And let me pull up.
Is that electronic somewhere?
Yeah, it's, let me pull it up here. If, I know, I didn't add it to the open,
Oh,
the ongoing project update thing. If you click that link, maybe
You wanna
it'll
see the
take you
email?
there.
no, I just, if it's on there electronic, I'll look at it.
And I did see, have you already signed off on the contract? The revised contract?
No, because this is the revised contract, yeah.
Okay, so I do see, that she did add in the success criteria as we had asked. It says our objective is to achieve 90% of basic plant control by the completion of our proposed series of treatments. We will monitor the results of treatments periodically throughout the project to make sure the project has been completed to our standards. Our work is guaranteed to meet the stated success criteria. I think that was the only change we had requested, correct?
That's correct, yeah, and just clarity on if they were gonna do the cut or not, or
Right.
what the mowing and everything, so.
So I think I'll pass this around, but unless there are questions from anyone else, I think we're good to go forward with that plan.
Okay.
Sweet. I don't know, is there a place on there to sign, or if you want to take a vote? Trying to think what the correct process is. I don't even know if there's a place to sign on there, that contract. Because again, if,
There is a place to sign to authorize.
okay, June,
one
One
signature.
person.
I'm happy to sign, or Julie, the chair, I
I
don't
can
know.
blame you.
Yeah.
See, why don't you, it should be, I assume it should be someone from the city.
Okay,
So why don't you check with Jack
I will.
and make
yeah.
sure if it can be you or if it should be someone else. And then if you need us for any reason, you can sign later, but I think it should be someone from the city that signs it because it's a contractual agreement.
I agree. Okay, that sounds good.
And we
And
can do a vote just to say that we're accepting it, to
Yeah.
give you the authority to do that.
yeah, that sounds good.
Would you like to make the motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the revised contract.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, roll call vote. Sarah? Al?
Aye.
Deb? Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thanks.
Did find out you don't use one.
No, just tonight I can remember first names. So that's where we're at.
And proceed. Chair not, unless it's a time, among the others.
The chair has never voted in my experience ever.
I've only for needs of quorum, like if we were so low,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And a quorum just needs to be the majority of the total number of commissioners, which is 7. So we only need,
Okay, but
you know,
so hypothetically, and I've encountered this in other bodies,
Yeah.
what would the chair do if it's 3-3?
I
uh,
assume I would vote then, but it's never come up.
it's an interesting question, but most of the time, especially with permits, there has to be like an explicit reason for voting against. That is in the act, right? Like you can't just, but there, on something like
Not all
this.
Commissions treat it that way.
Okay.
But our approach has always been to discuss until we are basically at the point where we're all in agreement. We've never run into a split decision situation, but certainly other commissions would feel like they're about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, everyone is
Let's do a
just,
3-3 on the next.
yeah. You're all really good communicators with each other,
Gonna be a
so.
troublemaker, Michael.
Seriously. All right, any other, is that it for Echo Dale? I think we're good there?
That's it.
Okay. Anything on Lathrop?
No, I'm sorry. The reason it's still on there is I was gonna ask Jeff why it didn't come to the commission. But
Oh,
like,
right.
again, my reasoning, I think, is because if it's between a private body and a third party, they don't have to do it with the city, but I gotta make sure. So I'm sorry that I don't have that yet.
Yeah, I think the main source of confusion was just that they had come to us before, so then that we never heard anything about it was confusing.
I think potentially that it was just a requirement of the order that there is a CR, but I don't know that it needed to be approved by the commission because it has to be approved by the Office of Environment and Energy Affairs or whatever it is. So it does get reviewed.
Right.
But I'll double check.
Okay, compliance updates.
Okay.
Which ones do we need to discuss?
The only one,
Like which,
Chickwin, so 108 Oliver Street, which has already been covered. So everything else is going good. I actually, I will add for 6973 Loudville. I got two more.
Which letter is that?
Sorry, that is letter, it's 8K.
Mhm.
8K, so that's a subdivision project for multiple housing developments. And we got another building permit request for units 6 and 7, which are also outside of the jurisdiction. They're outside of like the buffer zone. The whole area is encompassed in the permit. But I did a site visit quite recently for the other one, and I feel comfortable saying that signing up on this is my plan was to sign up on that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay, and that was it. So if you're all ready, we can move on to general business.
Great. All right, so meeting minutes, June 27th.
Yep, a paper copy here.
Folks had a chance to review the minutes.
Yeah.
Is that a second? All those in favor, roll call vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Cal?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Michael? Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. Patsy, those are all set.
Who seconded that? Was that you, Hal? Okay, sweet.
168 East Street.
Yeah, okay, so this is for a property that reached out to me because they would like to do some invasive knotweed management on their property. And it's another one of those places that has a kind of stream coming off of the mountain that it's not clear to me whether or not it's jurisdictional. So I wanted to confirm with you guys. Basically, I did a site visit. I'm going to pull up the pictures here in a second. But the site visit, I walked up the stream and down near the house where they want to do the work. It's very clearly defined like a channel. It's pretty deep down in there. And then I walked up it because the question is there wetlands or BBW or pond or water body that the stream is sourcing from? And if it is, then the stream becomes jurisdictional. When I walked up there, it kind of just disappears in the mountain, but it kind of like fans out to a bunch of small trickles that then coalesce into the stream. And I wouldn't know if a bunch of small trickles constitutes wetland or not. It's kind of funny to me. So I'm going to show you the pictures, see what you think. But I am leaning more towards not jurisdictional because it basically, then above that is the Eversource power line right of way, and there's certainly no wetlands up there.
And you just want to remove invasive, not weed.
Yeah, what they want to do is remove invasive knotweed that's basically along the whole area where like the maintained lawn is.
So why don't you show us that
Yes.
first? Because I'm not sure that we even need to suss out the jurisdiction.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this is basically the extent of the knotweed. There's kind of their driveways is behind to the right here in this kind of garage situation, but you can see where the knotweed pretty much starts on the left here. And then it works its way pretty much all the way down to the road.
Actually, Cassie, would you be able to pull up an aerial and tell us where this is relative to the maybe jurisdictional area?
Yeah, hold on just a second. I know, I need to take a screenshot of it and just include it in all the files. Okay, so 2019 is usually clear. It's a little better. So I haven't turned on any layers yet. This is just the aerial imagery. So East Street is here.
We're not seeing it yet.
Oh, doy. Yep, hold on. Hold on. Okay, stop sharing that. Okay, sorry about that. Here we go. Okay. Close this. All right, so here's the house down here.
Okay.
And then this is Mount Tom, and then up here at the end of their property is the Eversource right of way.
Yep.
So, you know, walking up the stream, like I said, it's very defined down here, and then kind of once you get pretty far up there, it starts to just kind of become a many
And where's the
small
knotweed?
trickles. So the knotweed is, I'm going to zoom in, just along the house area here. So essentially from here all the way down, there's knotweed. And the bank's pretty steep there. So I talked to them about like potentially concerns about stability when they were moving the knotweed She wants to replace it with, native species and something not as threatening potentially to her house. She was also curious about using, mechanical removal just by mowing it down. So not like removing the roots, but then also doing herbicide treatment as well. So a combination of the two. She was working with someone from UMass Extension to help kind of devise a plan.
So one thing you want to make sure she understands is that any pieces of knotweed, like if you cut it into pieces, those pieces can sprout.
Yep.
So you wouldn't want to mow it. You want to do controlled cutting and package it up and take it away.
Okay. And she might not have meant mowing. I said mowing, but she might know that. But I'll tell her for sure, just so that I don't, just to not. Okay.
On a non.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't even know if the work that she's proposing is necessary jurisdiction. Well, vegetation removal typically is considered altered, but.
So this is a stream that's not relatively connected.
In my opinion, it seems like that's not the case. Like, because where it comes from up above, it's a bunch of small streams that then come together and create the main channel. But I guess I just want to double check, like, that isn't a BBW, is it? Because that's the question. If it's coming from a BBW or like pond or something, then the stream all the way down becomes jurisdictional. But if it's just kind of springing forth from the mountain, it's not jurisdictional until it reaches a BBW, or like a wetland or a pond or a stream or something like that. And then everything beyond that. Because we've done other projects there's been other projects in the past that have turned out not to be jurisdictional at all.
And can you show us the pictures again? I was thinking that there was an exemption for removal of invasives under the minor activities, but there's not. It's just planting of natives.
Yeah, vista pruning gets close, but I don't think that applies.
Yeah. And vista pruning has to be located more than
50 feet.
50 feet from riverfront or BBW, which would bring us back to the question of jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's where the knotweed starts. This is like where her driveway is. And now we're looking down towards East Street a bit. The stream is basically right on the other side, but it's down like, I want to say 3, 4, 5 feet.
It's healthy.
It's very healthy. It's doing good, that knotweed. I'm trying to get a view to the stream down below. It's not a great picture, but. And this is it carrying on down to the road.
Yeah, I think to be safe, we probably should require an RDA. And then I think we can address it that way, because we would, with proper controls, I don't think we have any real impact or concern. I think we could do it under an RDA and make sure that she's covered and it's jurisdictional.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense to folks?
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, cool. I will reach out to them and get it sorted. Okay, sweet. Trying to think of any other pictures. Oh, I have a ton of pictures of me walking up the stream and trying to see, but if we're just doing an RDA, then that makes sense. Okay, cool. What's our next one?
All right, Williston Pond treatment notification.
Yeah, so they reached out, they have an order of conditions for this work. It's still valid, and they reached out and they gave all the, this is part of, it's an ongoing conditions for a certificate of compliance that was issued for an order of conditions. So they got a COC, and now that was written in such a way that they could keep doing the treatment as long as they give us this data. It appears to all be there and all the requirements have been met. I just wanted to let you all know that they are going to do that.
Fall Hunter Ecological Services.
Yeah.
One we've not seen before. Bob Hunter. Bob. Perhaps because it's new.
Mm-hmm.
And have they posted the signage?
That I don't know.
I saw the signage for their barley things, but I haven't noticed the signage for this.
Well, so this is at Williston Pond.
Okay.
No, Nashawanac Pond.
Right, I'm thinking Nashawanac.
And, but you know, it's funny because the Nashawanac Pond people just reached out last week
Okay.
but they needed to give me a couple more things. So I didn't present it today, but this one, I don't know if they have a signage requirement.
I was thinking Nashawanac.
Yeah, I was too.
I don't remember dealing with this one before. Did they do this every year?
Yeah, we did it we did it last year. And I can pull that out too if you want. I got the stuff from last year.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I just don't remember. I don't have any questions or see any issues.
Well, if nobody else has any questions, then I can tell them they can go ahead.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay. You're ready for the next one?
Reservation Road?
That's right. So we have two things for Reservation Road. I know it just says the conservation restriction, but it's actually the conservation restriction and the baseline documentation report that's associated with it. The conservation restriction has been reviewed by the state and approved by them, but it now needs to be signed. It's already been signed by the city council. We're gonna go try to get it signed by the mayor tomorrow. It also needs all the conservation commissioners to sign. It only has 5 spots, but I think y'all can put the 6th person can go on there as well. And we can, I don't know how you want to review it. I can show you pictures. I have a map of it here. And then the plan also is here, but it only has,
I think you all can find it as well. It says Conservation Commission/agent, but it might be better if you guys sign it, or at least put it there. And here's a map of it. So this property is a property that was required by the city through a grant program, the land grant program. One of the requirements to get funding to help purchase this parcel was that the city has to put a conservation restriction on it, which is a legal designation for the property, so that basically protects it forever, which is a great thing.
So this is the property right at the top of the.
Yes.
Of the still functioning road, or is it below the gate?
It is kind of right at the gate is where
Okay.
it starts.
So from the
And then
gate,
extends
it goes
upward.
up from the gate,
Yes, yeah,
so beyond the gate,
exactly,
where the road is like behind the park.
right.
Okay, great.
And I believe the road is either owned by the state beyond that point or something,
Okay,
which is part of the reason why I think it probably would have been difficult for them to build on.
great.
This
So
one that there was this really big controversial meeting about, like, a year ago, that they were gonna try to build condos.
I think this is.
Maybe.
there've been signs and Facebook things and stuff about it, but I don't know if there was an actual.
No, there was an actual meeting, I was on it.
And then, similarly, there's the one on East Street, which is where the trail is that has a stormwater program.
That
You might be thinking about that too, because they were thinking about developing there as well.
Right, that's
That one got a grant as a park grant. And it already has a CR, that one had to get a CR as well, but it's already got it. So they're kind of very similar, so it's a little confusing, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are meetings about this.
Have you read through all of this?
Yeah,
Is
yep.
there anything notable that we should be aware of?
In my opinion, no. I mean, I don't have a ton of experience with them generally, but it seemed quite standard to me. There's not a lot of, basically the way the CR is, it lists a bunch of approved activities and a lot of restricted activities.
Mm-hmm.
And in this instance, there's not much in the way of like a trail network there or recreational opportunities. Like there's no water to swim in or anything like that. So I think it says like no motorized vehicles, no.
I can read the list if folks are interested.
Yeah.
So permitted public recreation includes walking, hiking, Nordic skiing, snowshoeing, sledding, bicycle riding on designated trails, horseback riding, picnicking, and geocaching. And prohibited public activities include camping, hunting, fishing, gardening, agriculture, entry after dark, collection of plants, animals, soil, rocks. Uh-oh. I could be guilty of that one.
Oh, boy.
The rocks part mostly. And for example, motorized vehicles, fires, and alcoholic beverages. So yeah, that does seem pretty standard.
There isn't, as far as I know, there's not like a really nice defined trail network there, but they might pursue it in the future.
There's a trail that goes up to that
Oh, that thing.
water thing.
Yeah. We walked on that in the site visit. Were you?
Where's their relationship?
Isn't that
Reservation Road.
beyond?
What's that?
Did
Not up
we
in the
do a
park.
site visit up there?
Yeah, it's near there, but I don't think it's not within the same property, but we probably walk either through it or right along it
Right.
to get back
Pretty
down.
close to the gate.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just trying to look.
you can see on there that there's a proposed easement potentially maybe for that. I don't know what the plan is with
Did you
that.
walk by it?
I think we probably did. Like, we came out along that road when we came back down. So we walked right along it on the road there.
We don't,
So we're supposed to just sign off that we got notification that they got a CR for their land management plan?
No, basically you're supposed to review the CR and say you agree with it and you are okay with the city putting through the CR. Because basically the way it works is the city owns the property and then there's also a third party, a land management group. In this instance, it's Kestrel Land Trust. So one's the grantor and one's the grantee. And I think in a technical sense, it's going to be managed and / owned by the Conservation Commission, this property.
Oh, really?
Pretty sure.
But it doesn't have anything to do with Flatwood?
We
Yeah,
are the Open Space Commission as well.
yeah, they're also the Open Space Commission. So that's kind of why we've been dealing with the Echo Dale stuff, if
I
that
guess
makes
one
sense.
question that I just have is, one of the things that I've been learning about CRs is like the prohibition on hunting and fishing. That's really as good as our ability to enforce them. And I hear people hunting the Glen Mountain there all the time. They live right here. Always hear gunshots.
Open something.
As far as I understand,
And I'm curious if we incur any kind of responsibility, liability.
as far as I understand it, for hunting laws, they're pretty friendly to hunting. The city, I'm pretty sure, doesn't have any specific,
The CR prohibits it.
does it? Yeah, so if it, okay, so if it prohibits it, yeah, it's hard. So that would be a thing we probably need to post.
it's probably not posted.
It's probably not
Yeah, it says
posted.
it has to be posted.
Yeah.
As part of the CR.
So that's something that through the management of our open space properties should be happening. And then,
Ends up posting it. It's still outside of that section.
No, the city would.
yeah, the city
Or
probably would do it,
Kestrel,
or
probably
Kestrel,
manage.
yeah, so they probably, yeah, like Kestrel's been helping with the CR for the other trail project on East Street. And they kind of walk the boundary and do that management, but I mean, and to be frank, our management of our open spaces has not been as robust as it probably should be. Just because that's probably I came on and I was part-time and now I'm full-time and it's gonna be like folded into my position more, but that's not really.
So do
Come to
we
be.
have to ask Kestrel to do the posting?
Potentially, I'll ask, I'll figure it out. I'll talk to Jeff about it. He probably can give me a better idea of what,
Then
who,
there's the
when.
posting, but then there's like the when that person's out there.
I know.
It's not our responsibility.
Not our responsibility.
Yeah.
Cassie, administratively, do we need to sign this in front of a notary or can we sign it tonight? There's a notary.
It just says grant approval, Conservation Commission, City of Easthampton. Secret pages are included as grants.
Right, but then below that, there's a notary.
My understanding was that you could sign it tonight, but potentially we could do it, I don't know.
Because every page has a notary.
Oversight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess at the least we could ask, my request would be to vote that you want to accept it, to sign it, so we have that. Then sign it and see if we need it. I can ask the clerk to notarize it.
We can always print the page again and sign.
Exactly.
Get in front of a notary if we have to.
If we have to, so, and then potentially we could even sign it electronically if we have to do it that way, we can do the DocuSign, which we've done before. But yeah, my request would be to try to sign it tonight if we can.
So a motion to approve the conservation restriction for.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Do we have a second? All those in favor, roll call vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. So we are signing that the majority of the Conservation Commission of the City of Easthampton hereby certify that at a public meeting duly held on, what is today?
The 11th of July.
July 11. The Conservation Commission voted to approve in the public interest and grant the foregoing conservation restrictions to Kestrel Land Trust Inc. pursuant to section 32 of chapter 184 and section 8C of chapter 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and do hereby approve in the public interest and grant the foregoing conservation restriction.
And I don't know if we need to do a separate vote for the baseline documentation report.
We do need a separate vote.
I don't know.
We can give you a separate vote
Let's do it, I guess.
for all bases.
Yep.
Vote to cover all bases.
Let's have a slightly more formal motion than that. So we're talking about the document in Michael's hands. If you want to read the title, it's on it, and motion to accept.
Where?
It's the,
Presumably at the top.
Baseline document report and then management plan.
Yep.
Yes. Would you like to motion?
A motion to approve. Sign baseline document report and then management plan.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Sarah? Aye. Al?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. I don't think we need, do we need to sign that one?
the BDR, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Everything else is signed electronically by the mayor and Jeff Bag.
Which one is that?
I don't know, whatever I'm looking at. My Google Drive. There's mayor, Jeff Bag.
Oh, that's from the city council approving to use CPA funds.
Okay.
So maybe we could, but we could still potentially do it digitally, but
Yeah, whatever.
I'll let y'all know.
Yeah, you let us know. July 11th.
What's the whole thing put in the PR?
What's that? Mm-hmm, yeah. Those 5 lots. I think it's a total of 5.5 acres.
That's really big.
I think it was particularly looked favored upon for the grant because it's attached to Mount Tom, which is already a protected area, which is always nice to like expand an already a protected zone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the plot I'm thinking of. There was this woman who owned it and like he was trying to sell it. They couldn't find a buyer and then finally the developer came to buy it. But a whole bunch of people in the town put up a big fight.
It's interesting, yeah.
And I guess they got it bought.
Woohoo.
States, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then, yeah, whenever you're done with that one. So yeah, the final steps for this would be get it signed by the mayor, get it signed by Kestrel, and then they're gonna be registered with the registry of deeds. And that will put it in, set it in stone, protect it forever, which is really exciting.
But we can totally turn around and quick.
No.
Right, quick.
All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the clerk is like an authorized to be a notary. So she might be able to notarize it that way.
But
She's gotta be here.
signing it.
But maybe she can watch the recording in that time?
No, I think.
That's too bad. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, well,
But I appreciate you doing this at least. It might be extra. And
Oh, by the way, I bought your meeting.
yeah, just watch the little thing.
Wetlands ordinance discussion.
Yeah.
So, I did find copies of what we were working on back in 16, which appear to be dated from 2011. So this has been in the works for some time. I just found these in the hard copy. I didn't find the electronic. So I'm gonna have Kathy scan these
Okay.
and then we can circulate. Did you look to see if you could find the electronic version?
I found them once before, so I know I can find them again.
Okay, because that would be great if we had editable versions, because this is all I have. So we'll,
Mr. Cockshaw was working on that at one point, so I had. Or, yeah.
good work on time. So we'll send those around, but in the meantime, and maybe we won't have an extensive discussion tonight since folks haven't had a chance yet to review those. But I did want to at least begin the conversation by asking if you had a chance to review the things that Cassie did send around, and if we have thoughts on what we want to incorporate into our ordinance that we're going to draft.
How does that look at?
I did.
Your thoughts?
I'd really like to include the vernal pools isolated wetlands. Dedicated wetlands. And I know there was mention a few weeks ago about there being a lot of issues around steep bank embankments in Easthampton, so I wondered about extending the zone higher around steep embankments.
What do you mean by
The buffer,
Buffer zone.
the buffer zone, yeah.
Yeah, there has been discussion in some city circles about a separate steep slopes ordinance. I'm not aware of that having gone
I
anywhere.
feel like I saw something like that in the MACC. Let me check something really quick, but I feel like I saw something in like the MACC's
Samples.
samples with something
Yeah.
like that.
It was in there.
There definitely, there is such a thing, and we've discussed it. I've heard it come up in city conversation before, but we don't have any such thing. So I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't look at incorporating that into.
Yeah.
I was curious, somewhere they mentioned like that even like, maybe I misunderstood this, but that even like a vernal pool or something, it has to be like 5,000 square feet, which seems huge. Like the ones on the property on Northampton Street aren't that big, were they?
I don't think so.
5,000 square feet, so would they still, those still wouldn't be protected even if we had.
Well, it would depend on how we define this with.
I think we would have to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the version, just to, I know nobody's seen this, but I was just looking at what the isolated wetlands definition was in here from our draft. And it was framed around. Oh, there was a size. Actually, I don't think there wasn't a size constraint on this one. It just had to have, basically, it was defined in here as the same criteria that you would look for in a bordering vegetated wetland, but you don't have to have the hydrologic connection. And then there was also, this is what I was seeing, there's also a seasonal wetlands and vernal pools section, and that one had, it says seasonal wetlands are characteristically small. However, a given pool can vary in size from year to year depending on the amount of rainfall or snowmelt. Areas less than 400 square feet are not subject to jurisdiction unless they contain a vernal pool, and no areas less than 30 square feet are subject to jurisdiction. So this went quite small. But we may want to revisit these definitions. At least we'll certainly want to review them, think about whether they make sense in with this makeup of the board and given what MAC is recommending currently, which I didn't get a chance to fully read through.
I'll have to compare, and I can see if I can find examples in other towns too.
Yeah.
What they have.
Yeah. But yeah, I think definitely considering those expanded jurisdictions makes sense. Are there any other areas that we would want to think about including? I know we had talked before about and written into one of these as a no disturb zone. I think of a 50 foot. So within the 100-foot buffer, we had 50 feet that was no disturb. That's something that I think we've required or asked for a 25-foot no disturb in a lot of instances. So that's consistent with what we've been looking for regardless.
Does that conflict with the planning board? Can't they allow within the buffer zone, right up to, or do away with the buffer zone?
They certainly cannot do away with the buffer zone. No, they don't have the authority to overturn the WPA. And so whatever, I mean, as far as process goes, right, anything that we put together and propose, we will ultimately have to get approved by city council.
Correct.
And so I think we talked about this briefly last time. One approach and what probably makes the most sense is to have an ordinance and regulations, which is what we had started to draft, where the ordinance is what has to be approved by city council, and then it would give us the authority to define certain things in more detail in the regulations. But anything that we were proposing to have included in the ordinance, we would need to do our due diligence of going to other boards, presenting what we want, getting them on board, right, and addressing those concerns and potential overlaps and considerations before we put it to a vote, so that we know by the time you go to vote that you've got, you've addressed anything that might come up from other boards that would potentially challenge it.
Because I think before all our times, there was some kind of regulation in place that,
Yeah, back in the
gone away.
90s.
I also am curious about those streams that come up now.
Yeah, that's another area we might want to think about.
Because I have one of them like that. I'd like to know if there's I want to build something. It's
Yep. Are there any, so that's a good point. Are there any other questionable or confusing areas we've run into that aren't technically jurisdictional, but that sometimes seem like they ought to be protected? And that Tom question comes up all the time.
Yes, it does.
I need to do more learning and homework here, but I am confused about intermittent streams and whether and when they are.
Yes.
So that's something I would like to see discussion on and possibly included in an ordinance.
So intermittent streams they don't have riverfront, but otherwise they have all the protections that a stream would have.
So an interesting thing is that some communities in the past have done, basically abolished the distinction between perennial and intermittent and taken intermittent up to the standard of perennials. And so they kind of like get rid of the
Don't worry
distinction.
about it.
And that would certainly make me happy. But I came across something that really confused me, that an intermittent stream upslope of a wetland doesn't have protection.
Exactly.
And that to me seems completely backwards.
Right, that feeds the wetland down below.
But the wetlands are the source, so
Pardon me?
the wetlands are the source, so maybe that's why it doesn't apply.
Yeah, but to amplify what Sarah just said, I mean, that intermittent stream could be an important part of the water budget of the wetland.
Like the wetland could dry up if we don't protect the stream.
And that's the Mount Tom question.
Yeah,
That's where we usually see it. So
Okay.
I think that's something that we do want to think more about.
and a lot of those streams empty, that come up Mount Tom, like the one that goes in the back of our house, runs right down into a bog in a marsh that goes right over to the pond. So,
Right.
Is there any jurisdiction for intermittent streams that should be perennial, or streams that don't show up on a map that are there and have documented type of issue?
Well, if it doesn't show up on a map, there's specific requirements for proving that it's perennial or not in the Wetlands Protection Act. So that's addressed.
But the commission could, in this new ordinance, make it that it doesn't matter if it's perennial or intermittent.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going. Is there any leeway from a commission standpoint, the site visits to look at it, and maybe, streams haven't been updated in a while.
There would have to be specific criteria set forth. We would not have the leeway to go out and make a field call about whether we wanted to make something. It would have to be spelled out with specific justifications. How to your point about, or I guess multiple people's points about making all intermittent streams perennial, the question I would pose back is, if we've got something that is essentially a drainage ditch that meets the characterization for an intermittent stream, do we really want to put a 200-foot riverfront boundary on that?
Right. And that's
Not sure that that would make sense.
building projects.
Yeah. So I think that's something that we need to think carefully about how we would define it and what it would look like. I don't think we want to make that broad generalization. And I'm interested, Cassie, to see how others have done it, if they really have.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't give an example of who did that. It just says that it's happened before. So I do think that that could potentially could create a situation that could be really hard for some people who are trying to maybe single family homes and things like that.
Water everywhere.
Yeah, right. Right, but there may be a good middle ground that allows us to give more protection to intermittents without causing an undue burden.
Correct.
True, you could get more technical about it and be like, instead of just saying all intermittent doesn't exist anymore, everything is the same standard as perennial, you could say like if it meets these like even stricter flow standards, then I don't know if strict is the word I want to use, but increase or decrease these flow standards that make it perennial. I think you could do that.
Yep.
In the Northampton, I read some other ones in the kettle holes. What is a kettle hole and how do you have those?
I thought there was only like
I
8.
don't think we have any. A kettle hole is a geologic formation from glaciers. Gosh, I don't know if I remember the actual definition. I should. Basically, I believe
It's a depression hole and an outwash plain caused by retreating glaciers or draining floodwaters.
Yeah.
yeah, there's more to it than that, but we can go with that for now. Yeah, and most of Easthampton is under Glacial Lake Hitchcock. And so we generally have a different glacial subsurface, but you'll see a lot of kettle holes out on the Cape. You probably would see some, in areas that are rockier where you see a lot more rocky outcrops, that kind of
Is that where they
location
have
potentially.
it was in the Hampton?
They may have used like a broader definition just to
It may have-
catch
yeah, they
all
may have-
possible.
Actually, kettle holes are mentioned in our draft here too,
Oh.
but I don't think that we would have any.
It might have been drafted from the MACC model bylaw.
Yeah, it probably was.
Some of that was boards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That's a good
And
question.
there's nothing wrong with having it in there
Right.
if it doesn't apply, but I would be surprised if we had anything that you would consider a kettle hole here.
Shelburne Falls, California.
Oh, that's a good example, yeah, the Shelburne Falls potholes, I think are technically considered kettle holes.
Oh, interesting.
But often, like out on the Cape, you'll see kettle holes that are like lakes, right? They're big.
Okay.
Some cranberry bogs were built in
Okay.
kettle holes that have like filled in with the organics over time. And so if you were to actually like be able to X-ray to see what was there, there'd be a big hole and it'd be filled in with organic material. That's what creates those bogs.
Yeah, I was looking at other cities' ordinances, and some of them were really strict and some weren't, but there are a lot of different interesting ones. But I didn't look at what we had.
If you make it too strict and crazy, it's gonna
Right.
go through, so.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to see what we had.
Yeah.
Like delineations in the winter months are allowed.
It's questionable whether they're allowed to begin with.
Mm.
And you said no disturb zone, right?
so can there be a discretion, like, are we saying a definitive 50? Or do we say 25 to 50, depending on what that zone is? Or what they want to build in the urban zone? I mean, do we have a?
That's what we should look at what other people have tried
Yeah.
to do and what makes sense.
Yeah. In general, I would say anything that we can define and spell out so that it's not up to the whims of the commission in that moment is going to be a lot more defensible. But it may be that we want to define certain criteria under which we would choose something between 25 and 50. That's certainly up for discussion. And yeah, we should look around and see what others have done. I'm sure there's some things that we can do at the discretion of the commission. Certainly planning has lots of things that they can do with discretion, but I think historically we've tried to avoid that and have it be a little bit more clear.
It's an interesting thing. I'm glad you brought that up because basically the way once assuming the ordinance gets put in place, the way it'll work procedurally whenever we have an order or a permit that comes up the commission would issue the permit under the Wetlands Protection Act and then would also review it under our ordinance and vote for that as well. So each time we've been doing 2 votes rather than just 1. And so you can also have, I would organize our order conditions, the conditions under the Wetlands Protection Act, and then any other special conditions under the city ordinance. So it is a little separate in that way, but the bottom line is that the commission can't put any rules in there going to be less restrictive than the Wetlands Protection Act.
Another big topic that we're going to need to think through are fees and fines. Because we will be able to set fees specific to application under the city ordinance. So we can add that on top of the existing fees under the state Wetlands Protection Act. So we'll want to think about what would be reasonable there. That potentially could give us some more budget to work with. Historically, we've not used a lot of our budget, but partly because we haven't really had any source of income. So that's something to think about. And then one of the things that I know has come up on a number of occasions is that there's not really, I mean, you can file a enforcement order and ultimately DEP can assign fines, but we don't have any authority to assign any real fines, or there's no structure for that under our existing Wetlands Protection Act. So this is an opportunity for us to set fines so that if we issue an enforcement order, we can have a daily fine for every day that goes by that they're not responding and dealing with the situation or something. So that's something we want to think about too. And what are those numbers? What should that be? What do we want that to look like?
Do they pay a fee right now to get the actually submit an RDA?
Yes.
Only, not for an RDA, there's no fee.
Just for an NOI?
Only for NOIs and
Not all
AMRADs.
for fees?
And how much is it?
It depends on what they're asking to do. There's a whole fee structure which is in the act. Hard to say,
It's a
like,
few hundred to several thousand.
yeah, I could, sometimes it's pretty high. And sometimes for like a single family home, it can be quite low.
Yeah.
So I've seen a wicked range.
Yeah.
The RDA, no fees at all currently. The argument that I've heard for continuing that is that the RDA is typically for smaller projects, like that we don't want to discourage them from not checking in with us.
But you might be still paying for a company to come in and, you know,
Exactly.
do, mark out the wetlands, things like that.
Act as a consultant for you. It's just something to consider. My guess, and again, I don't have experience with passing an ordinance, but my guess would be that the fines and fees would be the highest potential for contention, or opposition potentially would be in that area. I do personally agree with the idea of potentially of fines. Just needs to be super clear under what circumstances and how much and how all that stuff. But I agree that currently, as it stands, my time here thus far, people are pretty much compliant and they usually work with us and we were able to get a resolution, which has been great. But it is a question of if a person doesn't comply and totally stonewalls us, the only option really is to elevate to DEP, who is quite busy. So it's a little harder to take on those projects that are a violation, but aren't big enough to catch the state's attention for urgency. So
It's really interesting that they say in the repeal of it, the private, because they thought the local government that was thought to be by some unnecessary market overzealous enforcement.
Yeah.
Did you find that in an article?
Oh,
It's in the minutes. from-
I found the minutes from the,
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
From 1998.
Yeah.
It's apparently pre-climate change.
I think that part of the contention was I think there was a fee structure, an additional fee structure that might have been
Yeah, they
a
said
source
the
of contention.
appeal process is too expensive and that local ordinance lots of projects.
What I'd like
And
to-
that's
yeah.
why I say that the question of discretion versus having clear standards that are applied is important.
Yeah.
Because I think what my understanding is that the commission at the time was being very liberal in how they chose to apply the rules and were blocking on projects and it can be problematic. So there's a need for balance, honestly. We're not trying to stop anything from progressing. We're trying to make sure that we're protecting the resources at the same time that for allowing the city to grow and change and do what's needed.
One thing that I can do is try to figure out where the commission's at and like how much money we have, where is it, how much of there is it, how much we ever used, like kind of discern, like, is there a need for fees / if we do want them, what would they be? The primary use thus far has been for training. So I think otherwise,
Yeah.
there's discussion for Echodale too, but
That would be very helpful, actually, if you could find out, get a record of our accounts.
Yeah.
And also find out, because I can't remember, unless Jay, maybe you do, if there is a separate account for open space versus other.
There's Equidale money that
Yeah.
kind of separate from the
Yeah.
general money.
But as far as, I think if we were to generate fees, that we could use them for open space
Yes.
improvements, right?
Good, yes.
And so that would be
Right.
a real potential asset to be able to actually do some active projects on some of the properties that we
Right,
in name manage, but never do anything with.
Pay a company to come and take care
Right.
of the basins or something like that on one of the
Right.
city-owned properties.
Yeah, and not have to scramble for CPA money
Right.
and grants, things like that. I think that is training.
yeah, like MACC offers trainings, that can be
Yeah,
taken.
Mike
if you have the
has
time.
done a
Half
bunch
the
of
time
that.
I'm sitting
You have to,
there.
right? Right.
Let me reach out to you about the trainings to MACC stuff.
You can go out and see what courses they have.
It's down to 300 per violation per day.
Per day.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a letter to the people complaining about how expensive.
Every violation. So
Any other thoughts at present, or shall we revisit at the next meeting?
yeah,
He did it.
it is. But what's the best avenue to come up with different?
When should we?
Yeah. So, one way or other, Cassie, why don't you scan these tonight
Yeah,
in case Jay doesn't
I'll
find
look for
the
whatever I
electronic
can find.
versions? Yeah, and so we'll circulate these, so if everyone could read through the drafts from however many years ago. And then, remind me, Cassie, what all you already circulated?
so what I put out there was a bunch of just examples from nearby towns. I sent you all the MACC sections from the handbook that talk about the process. And let's see, what else did I send you? The draft model bylaw.
Yep.
Which is not as detailed as what you've found, or not as tailored, I'd say. And then also they have a document that shows, last update in 2019, all the different towns that have their own ordinance, and there's like kind of like this X table, which I was gonna go through and find specific examples of things you talked about tonight
Okay.
and see what I could find. And then I can add that to what we're gonna circulate once I scan those. That might take me a couple of days, but I'll try for the end of the week.
So I think, a good starting point for next time would be if everyone can read through our drafts and make sure that you've at least also read through the MACC model, so that you've got a point of comparison.
Our drafts of the old ordinance.
No, our
No.
drafts of the new ordinance
Oh,
that we
okay.
were working on back in 2016
Oh,
and apparently also 2011 and never went anywhere with.
got it.
So read this, read the model ordinance, let's look for how they compare what we like, don't like in both. And then I think between that and the stuff Cassie's gonna look into, we should have a good jumping off point to keep moving forward.
Cool.
And this, I mean, these should be a pretty good foundation, so I think, it's gonna be mostly a matter of maybe over the next several meetings, once we've had this initial discussion, maybe over the next several meetings, we can kind of take one of these points and have a little homework to dig into it before the next meeting and come prepared to make some real decisions about how we're gonna address
If
one thing, check
If
it
that
out.
boilerplate's 10 years old, maybe
Yeah.
it's better. There's a
Right.
better model out there that we should be looking at too,
Right.
so we
Yeah.
can to see what's the current recommendations.
Procedural question, is this something that can be done in executive session or has to be done here?
Why would we want to do it in an executive session?
Just discuss and talk about it, I guess.
We're discussing and talking about it now, so I don't know what,
Well,
I'm not sure what you're looking for.
Taking up the time at the end of the meeting to do it, instead of dedicating a set amount of time to go through it.
I would recommend against doing an executive session. That was something that
It's
MECC talks about
procedural,
is making it as public and that's helpful as possible, because then we probably would want to do some public outreach meetings about it. So people might be interested to see previous discussion. We don't want there to be like a surprise opposition. We want to know what concerns people have about it and hear them and address it.
Yeah, and I unless you have one, I can't think of any good reason to do it. In
Or
executive
do you
session.
mean having like a separate meeting just for this?
So we're not,
That's, I don't know. I don't know what the capability of that is. I know you're all busy. So.
Something to think about, I think. It's not important if, you spend 10, to 20 minutes every meeting.
well, yeah, if you're 2 hours into a meeting already, then now you want to talk about this,
Right.
like, who cares?
But we did.
I make a motion.
We did do that well, but I thought we were on track to do better.
Can't have quorum discussions of
Yeah,
the
right.
quorum, so open meeting law.
Like the open meeting of the town where us, like.
Well, that's the thing, like, you could, if we did public notice,
Really can't, so.
I don't know, you'd have to go through all the public notice stuff, but executive session, if you don't know, is when the commission meets not available to the public. And it's usually for legal reasons and to discuss, legal proceedings.
Prices of properties.
Yeah.
or something
The only
like that.
time we've ever done it in my experience on the commission was when we were looking at acquiring that property on East Street.
Right, you're
And
talking about house prices or
Yeah.
property prices and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's interesting.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I said.
All those in favor, Sarah? Hal?
Aye.
Deb? Michael? Jay?
I
Motion carries. It is 8:06 and we are adjourning this meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. We will reconvene our next meeting at July 25th at 6 p.m.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.